happy Wednesday. Valerie Hunt, RunRx, and today we had a lot of great questions. So I want to answer the first question because I get this a lot and it makes a lot of sense. But let me have three main questions, so let me tell you what they are and then stay tuned to listen. So the first question is, how high should I pull my foot? That's number one, which is a great question. The second question is, how much strength training do I need to do for my running? And should I strengthen my glutes specifically? Also great question. And then the third question was, my calves are hurting. And so also, of course, unfortunate to hear, but thank you for sharing and let me help you as I can. So by the way, if you come on, hey Janine, and you come on and you have questions or other questions, then just ask away. All right, so first question. This is a challenge. How high do I pull my foot up when I run? So this answer always is so fun, kind of, but also really probably annoying for people. Whatever the speed or distance of running, you only break contact with the ground, and then you have to let go of the foot. And it's such an important understanding. When you're running, so we want you to pull this foot up, but I'm going to pretend like I'm leaving the ground, right? So I can't hold myself there. Okay, so I'm in my pose. So running for us, by the way, here's the running pose. Our body falls forward. So this is the foot that pulls. So here we see this foot. Look how high it is, right? So then we think, oh, I got to pull my foot that high. So if I do that, watch. I can do that, but man, I'm going to be tired. Because if I really try to run by pulling my foot like I see, then I am going to be really tired. So you have to have a relationship and a conversation with your hamstring. So if you would bend your knees real quick, so just bend your knees, and put your hand right here on the middle part of your hamstring and just press. You see what your hamstring does? Is it closes. The hamstring closes the leg. The quad opens, so extension. Quad is extension, hamstring the other way, flexion. And it's important because what does my knee do? Just as a job. Your knee is a hinge. So what your knee does is nothing, it's a hinge. But it allows the leg to extend or it allows the leg to close. I mean, it goes one way or the other. But the knee itself doesn't do anything. It just sits there, it's a joint. Right? So it's important to understand that because people ask me or they think, because remember, if I'm pulling my foot up, which way does my thigh bone point? Where's my knee? My knee doesn't do anything. It just stays right there. My thigh is actually pretty relaxed. It's the hamstring. So here's the thing, is that what we see isn't always what's happening. And that means because our eyes cannot catch every single movement. So we see arms look like they're doing this, right? So then we practice this. And then we see the legs separate. And this movement of lifting the knee is so powerful. Like you've heard it, someone told you to do it, you do high knees in your workouts, all of that. But if you think about what a high knee is, if my knee's this high, sorry, I'm trying to hold my balance. If my knee is this high, how am I traveling forward? Because if my knee goes this high, my foot's this high, then what? My foot's got to go, then I've got to run like this. And look how high my foot had to drop down. If my knee is high, so is my foot. And then the impact's insane. It doesn't make any sense. You have one job, and it's the pull. And you have to practice, though, full pulls, because drills are exaggerated for learning. Drills are always for learning. So drills are like catch the ankle, right? Because the reality is I want to develop the skill, the strength, the elasticity to be able to pull. So I have to do these in practice so that when I run, I can simply pull my foot up from the ground. What determines the height of your pull is your hamstring and your angle of fall. So for example, if I'm going out for, I don't know, let's say, let me go this way. Let me start in my pose. I'm going out for a run and I want to do a 10-minute mile. Okay, you're never going to start like this, but this is just for you to see. So I'm going to run a 10-minute mile. So I only need to fall about right here, fall, pull. You see where my foot pulled to? That's it. That's a 10-minute mile. And why would it need to be more than that? You see what I mean? Your hamstring isn't so smart. It's like, that's enough. And then guess what? I will fall, pull, and I will match my pull height. Not by changing how I run, but I'm adjusting. I'm simply only pulling enough to continue falling. You see how much less effort this takes? Because look, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not trying to go very fast, right? But if I was running, if we were running, we were out running, and we were not trying to run fast, just trying to run a really nice, conversational pace. Doesn't that look much more fun than if you and I were trying to run in conversational pace? Come on, 1 feet higher. Okay, let's keep talking. See what I mean? That's too much effort. So to keep that in mind. All right, so that's your 10-minute. Now I'm still going to start, like I said, same pull heights, just so you can see. Still here in pose, but now I want to run a little bit faster. Let's say an 8-minute pace. I have to hold my fall at a higher angle. So here's 8 minutes. You see? And there my foot pulled a little bit higher. So then this is higher falling angle and probably not going to talk as much, right? It'd be more like, hey, good to see you. But you still only ever pull the foot up from the ground. The response of the hamstring is determined by how much you fall. So let's say for fun I'm going to sprint. I'm not a sprinter, but that would be full fall. It'd be like, woo! So then the foot pulls all the way to pose. I didn't. I simply just pulled the foot. I allowed the hamstring to do the rest of the work. Because what's faster, just so you know, you will never beat gravity, and you're never going to beat the reflexive response of any muscle, but the hamstring especially. So if you try to do the work, it's like putting a weight on your ankle. So if you try to pull any higher than breaking contact with the ground, then you are now taking over the job, and unfortunately, you have to do all the work. So then you're out there doing this. I'm tired. And I'm telling you, take those weights off by simply falling first and only pulling enough to keep up. And I promise that the more you fall, your foot will naturally respond by pulling higher. And that's a skill. So it's something you practice. It goes back to basically like you should train in running like you would in any other sport. We just don't, unfortunately. I'm talking about distance running because I think sprinters absolutely do drills. And then distance runners just kind of use track drills. And we need to make our drills about what we're doing, which is still running. We're all running. The difference is in the angle of fall. So because we need to practice different angles of fall and different pull heights, I challenge everyone to just start like this. How can I just sense body weight on the ball of my foot using elasticity? So it's just a little bitty hop and then fall. And just what happened to my foot? You see, I'm not going to change, I'm not changing anything. I'm just pulling up, 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 up. It's not 180. But if I fall, what happens to the height of my pull? It goes up. You know why? Because the hamstring reflex, that's its job. I'm just over here doing nothing but this. You're learning, by the way, when you run, it's called responding to the ground versus looking for it. So I'm going to go right into the second question. Oh, I know. She also said, how come I can't see it? Because we can't see movement broken down unless we take a picture or we practice frame by frame. That makes sense? So like, you'd have to see the picture frame by frame to see it. So you have to like see it in your mind so you can feel. So just know that all of the drills are exaggerated, and that's on purpose. But you have to know, like conceptually, I know that my job is simply to pull my foot. But in the beginning, you should definitely over pull. So let me challenge that by if my calf is hurting. Hey Valerie, I've been pulling and pulling and pulling and my calf is hurting. I'll do shins next, but my calf is hurting. This was my reach out this week. This is a challenge. Why do we say pull? And this is important. because it's the opposite of push. And 99.99% of runners push. And we've all been taught to. We were taught from as little kids that if you push into the ground, you will go, woo! And you will. You do. You absolutely do. But you went up and then down. So it's like running by jumping is what pushing unfortunately does. So pushing is like I'm pushing, I'm pushing, I'm pushing, I'm pushing, I'm pushing. Well, then I'm going up and down and up and down. My calf is like, ow, ow. It doesn't want to do that. Your calf would like to do this. Then it's very happy. You see? It still works, by the way. Your calf is, all 600 muscles are working. All 600. They are working if you will allow them together as one unit. Meaning, there's no way while I'm running I can be like, calf, activate. Now hamstring. Now quad. Now my core. Now my arms. That wouldn't make any sense, right? So if my calf is hurting, it's because you are asking your calf to do more work than it wants to do or needs to do. So then it's tired. That's why it's hurting. So then you've got to let go of any kind of pressing or pushing. So that means knees bent. So instead of thinking, I'm not going to push, you don't think that at all. You think, I'm going to pull. Because if you're a pusher, you'll feel it immediately because you can't pull. You can only pull, say everybody stand here and pull. My knees are nice and bent. I'm pulling my ankle up under my hip. Now lock it, lock the leg. Now pull. You can't. You can only kick, and then that's not pulling. See, bend your knee, and there. I just corrected it in place. Doesn't mean it's magic, so you know. But now when you run, bend your knees. Bend your knees. And off you will go. Here's the challenge, by the way. If you watch track and field a lot, sprinting, we are seeing like the muscles in their end range. You ever throw a ball to a dog? I say this all the time, but sprinters are the same. Their muscles lengthen to the end range. That's important to understand. What does that even mean? Well, you have what's called a range of motion. So like, here's my non-impressive range. This is my hip range of motion, okay? So if I wanted to improve on my hip range of motion, then I would have to do mobility exercises, obviously, for the hip, for my body to be able to lengthen, right? To have more range of motion, say in this hip area. Now that's different than stretching because, for example, like stretching would be like I'm trying to do the splits. Then that's not, I mean, not a pleasant experience, but not necessary for running. Necessarily if I was me a ballerina or a cheerleader, but for running, I just need to have range of motion in the joint, especially the hip, especially the ankle, by the way. So I can work on range of motion exercises. So when we see those incredible elite athletes at their end range, we have this vision that running is this, right? We see their legs are way out. They're not controlling that. They do range of motion exercises. I guarantee they do stretching and mobility and flex, all of it. However, all they ever feel, just so you know, any runner that's a sprinter, is that. Because that is where your foot is connected to the ground, right? So everything else that's happening, that's up the chain and travel and all that, they're not controlling that. It is a byproduct of movement. And when we see that end range, then we think that they're like reaching and extending. And in fact, they're absolutely not. They just have an incredible range of movement, a range of motion. So I run, and my body doesn't do that. I don't fall enough for that even to happen. However, I do range of motion exercises, and when I do run, I absolutely separate in flight. See what I mean? It happens to all of us. So to understand why we do strength and self-care for running is to support the skill. That's so cool, isn't it? So what that means is this. If I had pain in my calf, would it make sense for me to say, you should do calf strengthening exercises? No, because it sounds to me like if my calf is hurting, that means you're overstressing the calf. So let me first check your form and let's make sure that the calf is not being incorrectly loaded while running. So then I'll look, we'll bend your knees, we'll have you pull, right? I do gait analysis and so I watch people run, watch them drill. Let's see if while you fall, are you pulling? You see, first you have to correct the movement that caused the injury. Then I would say, the next thing we're gonna do is help you just do ball of foot hops with your knee bent so that you can get more comfortable with allowing the calves to work less. Doesn't that feel like the opposite? But they've been doing this while they run. The calf is like, oh, I can't take that. So we're gonna teach it this. And then in 100%, absolutely, we're gonna do calf stretching, foot rolling, you name it, all of the self-care. Yes, so that we can balance the skill, right? Because we also want you to recover. But the beautiful part of the body is if you move correctly, the body will start to heal. Because you're putting it in the right pose, you're only asking the muscles to work as needed, recovery begins. It's amazing. And you're using gravity. You start to use gravity and quit trying to work against it, you'll start to go, oh, this is running. And that's where people get lost. So let me say this too. If it's a shin, by the way, it's this. So pushing leads to extension. Any thought of the ground is going to lead to pain. So I have to have no thoughts of the ground, only thoughts of what? Pulling off. Where am I falling to? I promise, doesn't matter how quick you pull your foot, gravity's gonna win. Whether you're playing with gravity or not, because it's playing with you all the time, it's always here. So if I pull my foot way up like this and then extend it out and bring it down, that is, that's 3 to 6 times your body weight. It's a lot. If I only pull my foot up and then do nothing but pull the other foot, what brought my foot down? Gravity, not me. I don't have time to do 2 jobs. I have time to do 1. Pull. I mean, I barely have time to pull. Pull. See, it's really quick. And the clap is the sound of you sensing when it's time to pull. Can you imagine if a sprinter was thinking, I'm going to put my foot down? I mean, when a sprinter touches down, it can be up to 8 times body weight, like they're coming down. But if I land with my body weight on top of my support foot, meaning I do nothing, and I allow myself to simply drop on top, you see what happens? That's a beautiful harmony right there. That's gravity, ground reaction force, muscle elasticity working together, and then I do very little. 10% active muscle is from you, meaning as soon as your foot touches down, if you do nothing, then you will start to feel that feeling and in your run. Like that rebound is there for you. It's already there for you. You have to develop some elasticity, you have to do some practice, of course, but you will start to feel when you run, your foot is like, oh, it's a very light, comfortable feeling. I'm not talking about sprinting right now, I'm talking about just running. And so we have to let go that running is hard in the effort of hard. Running is hard, 1, because running itself is a high level skill, number 1, but second, you're supporting all of your body weight and you are traveling through space. So it's very hard. And the focus has to be there. I have to be able to hold my body weight in balance. This is really hard. A lot of people have struggled just with the balance of pose. So my ears, shoulders, hips are in line. Here's my fall line, ankle, hip, shoulder, ear. That's my fall line. That line has to stay connected. So, I mean, just practicing this is incredible. And then allowing the free fall. Fall and pull. So it's just practice, right? Then sky's the limit. There's tons of gravity for you out there. You can use all you want. Everyone has 22.5 degrees available to use. Most recreational runners, unfortunately, are using almost none, right? None for their, how about this? We're all living in it, but to be able to use it for 2 things in your run. Acceleration, number 1, but also to let go of any kind of reaching. Well, then you let go, I think, of like more pain. Because I had it all the shin splints, all the planters, all that kind of stuff. If you are new and out of shape, Why does it feel like so much work? Well, I'll tell you a couple of reasons. Sorry, trying to see this. Okay, now I'll finish with that. That's a great question. If I'm new to running, why is this so much harder than heel striking? Well, just to remember that if I'm new to any movement, not just running, but any movement, the very first time I do it, it's going to be awkward. It's going to be hard because I've never done it. And you've adapted yourself. Whatever your running is right now, that is something you put together with your body. It's something between walking and running that you put together. And maybe you got comfortable doing that, but it doesn't create running. And this is the really cool part. And like anything else, you're worth it to invest in yourself to really learn to run. Because for the rest of your life, you could just run. And it's nothing to do with speed or distance. Like, those are byproducts, just like that beautiful end range of movement we see in sprinters. All of that is a byproduct of me taking the time to connect with movement. Because it's walking too. It's not just running, it's also walking. Walking is not running, and running is not walking. This is important. Why? Because walking, we have both feet on the ground. So I think a lot of people, when they're newer to running, they think that running is just walking faster. So unfortunately, instead of running, they've kind of adapted a faster walking. And it's unfortunate. You have to think in any movement, though, let's just say movement. Like people that bicycle, like when they pedal, if they're going up a hill, most people, they either go like this or they lift up on a bicycle seat. Why? Because they're taking their body weight up and forward. So the wheels are easier to spin. It takes less weight to go up the hill, right? So when you're running, when you're walking, you're spinning. Here's your wheels. How can I make my wheels a little bit lighter? Well, I can do that by, one, keeping my feet close under me, like a bicycle kind of, but also like this is where your body supports your body weight, right? Under you. When you stand, you don't stand like this, right? I hope not. Your feet are here supporting your body weight. If you think that running is this, how are you supporting your body weight? Because first you have all of your weight back here. It's pressing on my quad right now. It doesn't feel good, and my calf. How am I going to travel forward? So I'm a heel striker. How do I now travel forward? Well, now you take that back foot and you basically push. See? If you're a heel striker, you're pushing too. Oh, here's all my body weight on my back. It's on my hip. It's on my quad. I don't know how you guys like it. And then you go push. Well, then I just took all of my weight and then I just gave it to this guy. So then you're like, oh, now I feel some relief for just this 1 second. Whew. And then you go, it's amazing to me. I was a heel striker for years, by the way. That's how I was taught. I was taught push off the back, reach with the front. While I was out there winning the heel striking competition. I got stress fractures, I got planters, I got this twinge in my hamstring when every time I run a marathon, I have to put tiger bone patches on it. There was no joy in it. So you're comfortable because you've adapted to that. And to understand something, what people have gotten comfortable with, and again, not really good for your body. This is what you're doing. Okay, now that I feel the ground, okay, now I'll let my back foot go. And then again, you just take your weight and you shove it forward. So then you're walking and running by putting all of your weight down, and then you take this foot, and then when you feel the weight, then you let it go forward, and that puts all the stress on your hips. Whew, tiring. Instead, your body would prefer it if you would leave yourself close to underneath you so it could move. Even in walking, pull your feet. Let go of striding out. That's a myth. It's that nice visual we see, but the reality of what's happening in any speed or distance, by the way, you're just pulling your foot. And so if you get comfortable with your feet being underneath you, you'll let go of that unless you're working on your range of motion on purpose. But it will happen. That's the coolest part. You'll film yourself and you'll be like, oh, look at me. Had no idea, because we can't feel that. So then in walking, it's like we try to create it. Just don't. Just pull your feet. Keep your body together, connected. So much happier. You know, I can go any direction, I can go sideways. I mean, I know I'm being a little goofy, but I'm telling you guys, if you start to move with your center of mass, hold your shoulders over your hips, and let go of actions. It's not muscles, it's movement. That's why when you watch people that really know how to dance, not me, they look so smooth. Runners, they look so smooth. Because why? Because they will skill, but they're literally like, oh, right? They're falling and allowing the movement, and we're like trying to be robots. So let go a little bit, have some fun. Try it in your walking, try it in your running, and so what if it's hard a little bit? It's good for you. It will be less hard because it will be how you're gonna convert what you've been doing into a nice new movement. And then it's for life. So for the rest of my life, I will be less impact, using my elasticity, reducing muscle fatigue. I mean, I don't see any downside really. So you feel goofy in the beginning for a little bit. That's okay. You change your mindset too, because and especially like when I first started practicing, guys, I was made fun of all the time, but I'd be like at the grocery store and like pulling, mowing the lawn, pulling. I'd never pulled in my life. I was what? Start aging yourself. I was 29 years old when I found Pose Method. I'm now 50. And was doing my first triathlon. And I mean, honestly, I had been running for years with my push and my reach. So I had to develop an understanding of what is this pulling thing. Really, what is my hamstring? And so, yeah, it was like a reconnection. But I promise you, I would not keep talking about it over and over and over if I knew that it wasn't worth your time. It is in just the joy that it brings you, honestly. It's a lot of fun. All right, guys, thank you so much for the questions. You know I love talking. Just ask, comment under here, reach out to our website, and ask questions. Like, get the conversation going, because I promise you, I know you're hearing so many different things. Oh, I know, last thing, the glutes. This is a really big one. I got a good sized glute too. It's a, why do I need, let's see, what do my glutes do during my run? How about, that's a great question. And what that means is, because people hear, or they'll say things like, my PT said my glutes weren't firing during my run. And it's just a fun term. Here's the thing, your glutes, when you're standing, hold your body up. If your glutes were really not on, as people like to say my glutes weren't on, then you would be literally like this. I mean, I promise your glutes are on, if you will. Now, when you strength train your glutes or your hips or your feet, I like to say hips because it's the whole thing, the whole unit. We could do like a bunch of these, right? There's a lot of really, really great glute exercises, but at the end of the day, just keep something in mind. What is connected to the ground? Your foot. So really, what's the first thing I should think about strength-wise? My feet. Because we are talking to the ground with our foot and then to our brain. So when we're running, you need to be able to respond to ground contact by pulling the foot up. That's just a reality. And again, if we look at like really elite marathoners, none of them look like they spend tons of time in a weight room. So to be fair, we have to think less of muscles are going to help us be better runners. Now, to be fair, I love strength training. I love it. And I believe in it. And RunRx is skill, strength, and self-care. So we have to look at first you as the runner, skill, and then the strength, and then the self-care. And it's just important to understand that, because yes, you need to have good, strong glutes for everything, for life, not just for running. But it's certainly not what's limiting your ability to run. And that's what's so important. So yes, we include all kinds of strength training. Body weight is the best, especially to start with. You can always go more into strength training, but then you're going into strength training. It's like running. Just learning to running is what I'm about. You want to go run ultras and marathons? That's great too. Like, it's all good. But that's kind of taking it, woo, right? Which you should once you feel good with it. Then run however far you want, all that. But let me just help you to understand that muscles serve a role in running, but all 600 muscles are working all the time when you're running. So be fair to all of them, meaning it's when you're in pain, there's a movement error. And then yes, we absolutely work on the strength and the self-care to make sure that we can help you correct that movement error. So, but really just get out of the thought that I have to do a muscle strength to become better at running, because all you need to become better at running is just opening your mind. That's the best part, because gravity's right here, and then we can all fall and pull. So then you work on the other stuff to support that skill. All right, so that was, I wanted to make sure to answer that. All right, guys, have a great day. I'll see you next Wednesday, and keep the questions coming. Thank you. Oh, by the way, of course, as always, we'd love to have you in our membership. If you're interested, we do 12 weeks, gait analysis, video check-ins, full immersion, coaching. It's amazing. RunRxStrong.com. And we also have a free 30-day reboot on our YouTube channel. That's great. It takes you through the practice, short little demos, and it's just an easy way. It's not easy, but it's a simple way to follow the practice in a progression. Instead of just trying to look at my videos and try to do a drill and then go running, which, you know, is fun, but if you go through the reboot, it at least helps you go through kind of a process, especially if you're new, to get you in kind of a balance of skills, strength, self-care, to keep you progressing in your run. All right, so either one, would love to see you, and let us know how it goes. Thank you.